Why sell your catalog? Fyre Festival settlement. Save our stages delayed. NFTs and copyrights. Live Nation on the blockchain. 25 years of live streaming. Plus, your daily Spotify updates. It's the Week in Review. Happy Friday, everyone. We have a lot to talk about. But first, let's turn to my co-host, Eli Window. Eli, how are you? Great to see you.
It's great to see you too, and I can see you. This is really cool. We are streaming today, not just audio, but video. So welcome to the Music News Power Hour. We're reaching out to you every way we can today. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Yeah, this is the first week that we started doing the live stream, and it's been going really well. So if you aren't on Clubhouse, you can actually tune in to Music Industry City. It's like on YouTube's, on the Facebooks, on the Trova. We're on like 10 different platforms, and also my personal Twitch, not my personal preference, but my personal Twitch account, Peter Schwing. So you can find out, tune in live. So anybody that's in the chat saying hi, we can see you, so ask any questions, anything you want, and we're here. And everybody in Clubhouse, welcome as always. So this is what we do every day from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. We scour the World Wide Web for music business news that we find important, and maybe you will too. We're going to start really shortly, but just a little how this works is for the first like 20 minutes or so, Eli and I we go over the news. I'll be reading directly from the articles. If you want to, do the play at home board game version of this, you can go to musicindustrycity.com, and there you can click on the Clubhouse Information Center graphic, and that'll take you to the show notes where we have the listing of all the news articles that we covered over throughout the week. So we refresh it every Monday, but right now you can go and see everything we covered because it's the Week in Review. And Eli, we covered a lot.
It's been a crazy, crazy week. We have a lot to cover, not just today, but for the week. And today is the Week in Review. Let's go ahead and get started.
Yeah, why don't you take it away with this day in history?
This day in history, let's take a look. On this day, April 16th, 1999, Skip Spence, an original member of Jefferson Airplane and founding member of Moby Grape, died of lung cancer in San Francisco hospital, aged 52. He had battled schizophrenia and alcoholism. In memory. Birthdays today. Born on this day in 1924, personal favorite of mine, American composer, conductor, and arranger, Henry Mancini. His best-known works include the theme to the Pink Panther film series, Moon River, and Breakfast at Tiffany's, and also the theme to the Peter Gunn television series. Born on this day in 1924, Henry Mancini. Born on this day, 1973, Akon. He was the first solo artist to hold the #1 and #2 spots simultaneously on the Billboard Hot 100 charts, not once but twice. He was listed by the Guinness Book of World Records as the #1 selling artist for master ringtones in the world, born on this day. Also born today, 1993, American recording artist Chance the Rapper. Happy birthday. His third mixtape, Coloring Book, earned him 3 Grammy Awards, including Best Rap Album. Happy birthday to Chance the Rapper. On this day in 1993, David Lee Roth was arrested in New York's Washington Square Park for allegedly buying a $10 bag of marijuana. What a day for David Lee Roth. On this day, 1994, Prince had his first UK #1 with The Most Beautiful Girl in the World, his 37th single release. It was his first release since changing his name to an unpronounceable symbol. If you remember, he became the artist formerly known as Prince. On this day, 1996, Kiss appeared in full makeup at the 38th Grammy Awards, where they announced their reunion tour. It would mark the first time all 4 members of Kiss had appeared together in over 15 years. And on this day, 2003, Jerry Lee Lewis filed for divorce from his 6th wife, Carrie McCarver Lewis. The 67-year-old singer married Carrie in 1984, who was the president of the Lewis Enterprises, Inc. fan club. And that's it for this day in history. Kind of a crazy day in history, Peter.
The whole 6 wives thing, it's like 6 wives of Henry VIII.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there you go.
Except they lived through it. They lived to tell the tale.
Right. There was no guillotine involved.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure I see Adam. I see Adam is in the audience. I'm sure he liked to hear that Prince comment.
Some of them actually didn't.
Yeah, Angela is breaking up. I was just saying that Adam was probably happy to hear that Prince comment.
I always like hearing Prince, and that new album that was released, that was announced this past weekend, or that 60 Minutes piece and whatnot. I'm going to go broke. They say that the Vault has a full album. They can release a full album every year until the end of the millennium. So I just dropped $150 on the new record and the box set and the whatever. It's never ending music from Prince.
Yeah. Awesome.
Gonna go broke.
Right on.
Prince forever.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the news. All right, and this comes from djbooth.net, and we've been covering. I'm not going to go into this one in depth at all. It just kind of covers what we've been discussing for the last few weeks and what we've seen in the industry over the last few months. A lot in the middle of 2020 into the Q4 is this article is entitled "Why Famous Recording Artists and Songwriters Are Selling Their Catalogs." And once again, if you want to check out all the articles that we are discussing, you can get the links, the headlines, and the links in the show notes at musicindustrycity.com. Click on the Clubhouse Information Center logo graphic and it'll take you there. So this is really interesting because we've been coming, you hear about all these artists that have been in companies like Primary Wave, Hypnosis, Vinyl Alternatives, Shamrock, KKR, Roundhill, Warner, Universal. It's every week it seems like another catalog is being acquired. So like Stevie Nicks, Ray Charles, Whitney Houston, Bob Marley, Hypnosis purchased 50%. So it goes on, but the article kind of talks about, get to the point of saying why are the artists selling their catalogs and what do they have to they stand to gain as a result? And the answer they say is the short answer, which is cash. These deals are all about the money, and with valuations skyrocketing, buyers are willing to find creative ways to structure them. The artists are willing to, despite or perhaps because of the global pandemic. They realize that timing is everything, and acting quickly may mean pocketing more than they might otherwise get with a traditional deal. Everything is on the table, from full copyright ownership to the resulting royalty streams from music publishing and sound recordings, even producer royalties. Songwriters are even doing what was previously unthinkable, selling their writer's share. So what factors are driving this boom? They're talking about streaming growth, songwriters' royalties, because the mechanical royalties, the payments that the songwriters receive when their compositions appear on a CD, vinyl, or streamed are by copyright law and have historically lagged behind record royalties. But a 2019 decision by the Copyright Royalty Board increased the streaming royalty rate by 44%, from 10.5% to 15.1%. That rate was supposed to be phased in over the coming 5-year period, with streaming services are fighting the increase. So hopefully result in more money being paid out to songwriters and music publishers, thereby increasing the value of the copyrights they own. They go on about data transparency, control issues. With songwriters and performers finally able to wrest ownership of their copyrights from labels and publishers, they are now in position to be able to sell those rights, driving the current interest in catalogs. So, you talk about there's cash-strapped artists. We've heard about David Crosby said, that when he explained that he was being forced to sell his publishing to catalog to sell his mortgage, low interest rates, also then financial planning. So it goes into a lot. And, they talk about the capital gains tax. So it's when he's talking about been looking at the decision to sell increasingly through the lens of financial planning. With Joe Biden's presidential election and the Democratic Party controlling both houses of Congress, it's highly that the taxes will go up. If you're planning to sell a valuable asset, better to close that deal before the capital gains tax increases. Doing so means putting more money in your pocket instead of the government's. And with the stock market hitting record highs, it's possible that reinvesting those gains might generate even higher returns than holding onto your copyrights. All right, and that is in djbooth.net. Why famous recording artists and songwriters are selling their catalogs. I may have initial thoughts on that.
Can I jump in here with the tax thing? Because that's actually, I work in that field of finance and stuff. So you got your capital gains rate of 15%. If you sell a catalog for, 300 or 400 million, would you like to pay 15% of that today? Now, aren't royalties taxed as ordinary income, which could be a lot higher? So that's an important reason to take all the money at once. But the Prince discussion also brings up the estate tax. And he got into a really dangerous tax thing there because no one had any idea what the value of his songs were that he had left behind. And the IRS came in and said, well, we think they're worth $1 billion. We're going to take 40% of that. And they're like, wait a minute, 40% of what, So for an artist who's up there in age, like Bob Dylan, who wants to leave his estate intact by selling it while you're alive, the value is known. Nobody can come in and say, well, we think it's worth $2 billion or whatever, when, hey, I sold it for $400 million. That's what it's worth, period. So there's no question there. So there's multiple tax reasons if these artists have good financial planners. Anybody here worried about selling their catalog for $100 million?
I wish I had
anyway.
that problem. I wish I had those
Not
concerns.
likely.
All right, yeah, let's and we can go back to this as well. As if anybody else in the audience wants to join in the conversation, feel free to raise your hand. If not, and we can go into the round table. So let's go on to the next topic here. The next article is from Variety, and it starts off: Fyre Festival. I think we all remember the Fyre Festival. That never was. Fyre Festival reaches financial settlement with 277 ticket holders. So again, this is from Variety, and it's Jem Oswald. And so the Fyre Festival has reached a settlement with 277 ticket holders from the famously disastrous 2017 concert that never happened, with each recipient being awarded $7,220 in payouts. The settlement between the ticket holders and the trustee of Fyre Festival assets was filed in the U.S. Bankruptcy Court in the Southern District of New York on Tuesday. The news was first reported by Billboard. So their lead attorney for the class action suit told Variety, quote, "It's a small but significant step for ticket holders who were defrauded and had their lives upended as a result of the fraudulent conduct by Fyre Festival founder Billy McFarland." He added that because there are multiple creditors involved in the chaotic aftermath of the festival, each ticket holder may not receive the full $7,220, but, quote, "there will be monetary relief in some form or fashion pending approval." Hearing is set for May 13th to approve the settlement. And if you remember this, the festival is positioned a luxury concert event featuring Migos, Disclosure, Blink-182, Major Lazer, and more. It was partners Ja Rule. It was scheduled to take place over 2 weekends in the spring of 2017, and ticket prices ranged between $1,000 and $12,000. And we remember all that advertising with the splashy video ad filled with models luxuriating on yachts and sun-kissed beaches on an island purportedly formerly owned by Pablo Escobar, who actually never owned an island in the Bahamas. So, basically, as we remember that story, and if you watched any of the documentaries or all of the documentaries, we saw what happened. We were outraged. We got a chuckle at the patheticness a little bit, but a lot of people, it did a lot of harm to a lot of people. A lot of people were out a lot of money. Companies were hurt. It just, it wasn't it. It was the festival that everything changed. Everybody looked at festivals in a different light after that. Any thoughts?
I think it's tragic to think about this and to remember this, but we were just talking in a headline yesterday about somebody who made up a Bjork concert and ran away with all the ticket holders' money after convincing the promoter it was real. So I think it's just kind of tragic that we're seeing this kind of negativity associated with live shows and festivals anyway, when there are so many of us pining for these events to come back in the first place. It stinks to have them in the headlines in a negative light, but I know we all remember the dumpster fire that was the Fyre Festival.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody had any like, not involvement, but any artists that were affected by it, or anybody that was affected had tickets or was planning to go. I mean, I remember, like, in the industry, for the most part in the industry, we a lot of us were talking about saying, like, no, we looked at it and said, this isn't going to fly. What is this? And it put a mark on all the people that do quality, amazing work and all the time and effort, and for something like this to happen, and it just was tarnishing a reputation of, like, this live sector. And it's like, people had to be extra precautions, and from the people that are doing great work. So I was ticked off about that, where it's like, how dare you. All right, moving on to Save Our Stages here. This is from Hypebot, and it says, Save Our Stages delayed. SBA offers no date when the SVOG grant portal will reopen. The SBA has issued a vague update as the portal to administer $16.3 billion in shuttered venue operating grants, that's the SVOG, to devastated independent music venues, promoters, and agents remain closed. Wednesday evening, the SBA offered this SVOG update which offered few specifics and no date as to when the portal to accept applications would open. It reads in full, quote, "The SBA has identified and fixed the initial issues related to the shuttered venue operations grant application portal. When we restated rigorous testing with our vendors and did additional risk analysis, our teams identified other potential performance issues, which we are working to resolve. We are focused on strengthening the portal's performance and other enhancements for when it reopens. We also continue to engage with stakeholders and will provide advance notice of the reopening date to allow for sufficient preparation time." The SBA portal remained closed on Thursday morning. Technical problems have forced the U.S. Small Business Administration to close the new SVOG grant portal 8 days ago before a single application was received for the desperately needed funding. The U.S. Office of Inspector General has issued a letter critical of the SBA's planning and questions the agency's ability to handle the massive grant program.
I mean, this is the same as what happened with the PPP for anyone who went through that, and the idle loans. So it's more of the same. It's not a surprise. It sucks, but not a surprise.
Adam, I was just going to reference that. This kind of reminds me of what a lot of people went through with PPP.
Yeah, it's exactly what I went through last summer, and took months to get it sorted. I'm always, also this related. Does Hypebot ever publish anything positive? They just always seem to be negative. Can I just say that? I don't know.
I would
That's
say
just me.
I would always think like Digital Music News was more of the negative one, or the one that's trying to call out something.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like lately, like the last 5 or 6 Hypebot articles I've read have all just had like a negative headline, like is such and such over? Is this the end of this? Is it it's just always like, just, come on, doom and music.
Doom and gloom.
Now
Debbie
there's
Downer.
a record for us. Doom and music. I want to be on that record. That sounds awesome. That sounds
exactly.
awesome. Before we go on to the next comment or headline, I just want to take a minute to welcome everybody who's coming in. Right now, this is the Music News Power Hour, every day, weekday, Monday through Friday from 12 to 1 Eastern. We cover some music headlines. We're reading out some headlines now and just bouncing around a few comments. If you have a comment you'd like to share, please raise your hand and we'll bring you on up to join the discussion.
All right.
I think maybe the Hypebot click rates are down, so they're just relisting the headlines in a sort of slightly questioning or negative light. It's the same story. It's just the headlines are reworded.
Yeah, if it bleeds, it leads.
And
maybe I'm just upset that I fall for it.
Or maybe it's something to do with bands in towns, because aren't they the owners now? As of like a year or two ago.
Oh, I don't know. I forgot.
Yeah, I think Bands in Town now owns it, but it's still Bruce is still operating independently of it. So
maybe I just hear Bruce in everything.
Bruce, if you're watching, we love you. All right, so this one is a from Cointelegraph. So we're taking this from outside the music industry. But it's coming, the title is called A Cure for Copyright Ills, NFTs Promise to Empower Creative Economies. The reason I put this in is because this is coming from more like, Cointelegraph that has experience in the blockchain and crypto fields. So talking it from kind of from their perspective as opposed to from some inside the music business looking at that perspective. So this is going to be something of a discussion, and we talked about it throughout the week. So again, we can bring this to the roundtable later. But I just wanted to let you kind of hear a little bit on this. Many believe that NFTs are not merely a flashy new medium for artistic work, but a vehicle that can generate new efficiencies and redefine relationships between creators, their audiences, and traditional executives, and of the music and artist industries. Better management of intellectual property rights and streamlining the distribution of royalties are among the most frequently invoked use cases. Established copyright management bodies such as the Italian Society of Authors and Publishers are joining the movement and heading in the direction of blockchain IP registries, while musicians are putting shares of their work up for sale for investors to profit from the record's subsequent commercial use. How viable are these solutions, and what roadblocks can they their champions run into? So It goes on and breaks out, the quest for authenticity. One of the key challenges that the creators of digital content face is the ease of which a perfect digital copy of their creation can be produced at virtually no cost. Because a digital image or soundtrack can be instantly copied or distributed an infinite number of times, it's challenging for creators to track how and by whom their work is used and accordingly to benefit from this usage. So it goes on. Quote here, first, NFTs allow us to securely trace the transfer of rights in the same way as a Bitcoin payment securely traces the transfer of funds. Second, NFTs can provide perpetual support to creators. For example, an NFT could specify that creators should be rewarded each time an asset is resold at a higher value. What do NFT owners really own? So they go on, NFTs are different from digital content in that there can only be one holder of a given NFT at any given time. NFTs do not, however, typically contain the digital content and might not be linked to digital rights management technology that would prevent copying the digital content. The link between the NFT and content may even just be conceptual, but it can still have value as long as the NFTs are scarce. All right, so and if the NFT controls access, then it will enhance copyright protection. If the work is protected against copying and redistribution through the NFT and access is by, for example, a one-use code to view, then it would be protected beyond copyright. NFTs can also be used as licenses whereby those who purchase them acquire the right to use the content for commercials or other purposes, but they do not give the ownership right. So it goes on, fractal ownerships, relationships in the copyright law. It really, if this is something that, you want to find out more, this is a very good article from outside the music industry's perspective, saying, looking into the artist and creative economy and the use cases for this. If anybody's also questions or wants to, jump on and talk about this a little bit more, I'm going to open it up just for a moment.
Where's this article from again, Peter?
This one is from Cointelegraph, and it is in the show notes at musicindustrycity.com. And if you go there, you can click on the graphic that says Clubhouse Information Center, and then you'll find the show notes in there. There's a link there, or you can scroll down, and it's an embedded Google Doc.
Perfect. And I got to say, your website is pretty amazing. This is good.
I'm still working on it. Still got a long ways to go, but thank you for that. And if anybody wants to register, you can register for free, and you can get all the weekly email about all the other shows that we do outside of Clubhouse. But first, let's take a quick break. We got to get the weather report in. So over to you, Eli.
Okay, for the weather report today, we want to invite you to go ahead and put your winter coat on and take a step outside and check and see if that winter coat is something that you're going to need today. And that's the check of your local weather in your neck of the woods.
All right. Thank you for that. All right. Talking about blockchain, NFTs, Ticketmaster owned Live Nation partners a blockchain ticketing firm. Okay, so Live Nation's French subsidiary has partnered with digital ticketing service Dragon Technologies to use Tix2.me, a blockchain-based digital entertainment wallet. Live Nation is the owner of Ticketmaster, one of the largest ticketing companies in the world. And this is in ledgerinsights.com. Again, it's in the show notes. So what they're talking about here is the ticketing industry has progressively shifted towards digital ticketing. Paper ticketing is inconvenient for consumers. It can be easily damaged, stolen. For the ticket issuers, a digital process is more efficient and less time-consuming. However, going paperless does not address some of the other industry challenges such as fraud and resales. Blockchain-based ticketing initiatives enable the event organizers to control resale purchase prices, track the ticket purchaser and event attendee, and limit fraud. This can give the event far greater control over ticket scalping. So the Dragon concept is to enable consumers to access tickets in one secure digital wallet. As Live Nation France hosts a series of entertainment events, consumers can purchase and access all tickets through a single platform. Event organizers and artists will be able to communicate with ticket holders through the Tix2Me platform to inform them of special offers, updates, and other content, and it's particularly valuable as event venues reopen with social distance precautions. So they go on and quote, "We were looking for a way to connect with ticket holders for events postponed by COVID-19 and keep fans entertained while waiting for news of a rescheduled date," said Live Nation's French CIO, Elie Blodow. Dragon worked with us to create a simple mobile application which we can aggregate fans into one location and instantly deliver messages, media, and tickets. It's also an innovative solution with many future opportunities to create, test, and new revenue generation ideas. So it goes about, talks about more on the blockchain. It carries tremendous potential. And, it's just the first stage of the partnership. They're saying that FanDragon will enable thousands of Live Nation Friends ticket holders to be purchased through the platform. The transaction will be processed through the Eventus network as a combination of fungible and non-fungible tokens. Tickets on the blockchain, is it going to solve scalping? Is StubHub, which was one of the biggest companies affected by the pandemic, is this going to be a solution? Is this going to help?
As the resident NFT Grinch, this is one use of blockchain I can get 100% behind. I feel like there's so many different beneficial uses for blockchain that are just not being discussed. And this is definitely one that I've heard lots about that I think will be very, very useful to stop all sorts of.
All right.
I thought the same thing, actually, Angela. I thought this sounds like a good news story for the music industry and NFTs, one that actually most people can understand from the point of view security and so on. But I think this story and the last story, there's a very simple rule of thumb with the NFTs and the whole blockchain community is that the contract and everything that you're dealing with is only as good as the smart contract that's written on top of it.
Well, what does this do to the average fan who wants to exchange tickets with friends, or the one person that gets a block of 4 tickets and needs to distribute them legitimately to the other people they're going to attend the event with? I'm just curious.
Well, I think that's a valid concern, and I remember Elliot, I believe it was you who was referencing a QR code recently for a live event, a QR code for each attendee, and I remember Peter and I had the same question: what happens if I buy 4 tickets and give them out to my friends? And the answer in the QR question was that each concert goer would get their own QR code. And so I think that question is coming up again right here, right now, with this issue of blockchain, and not just cash transactions, but NFT transactions for concert goers and event attendees. And I think that's a valid question for a lot of people. How often do you and your 3 friends each go buy 1 ticket and then meet up at the show? No, you buy 4 tickets. Somebody buys 4 tickets altogether. So I think this is a really valid question. I'd be interested to learn more about that. What happens when one person buys 4 tickets for the group and tries to distribute them?
Why wouldn't it be treated like any other NFT? Not that everything on the blockchain has to be an NFT, but I bought it. I can sell it to whomever I want at whatever price I want. And just like the artist with their music, the ticket seller maybe wants to set it up so he or she gets a royalty or a piece of that sale, even if it's a subsequent sale by a scalper. That's an interesting, way of looking at the blockchain and NFT world. Is you bought it, you sold it, it's known, it's transparent, but you have the right to resell it. Why not?
Well, it just seems like the impetus for them even attempting to use something like blockchain to thwart scalping is going to create the roadblocks that I'm concerned about. They don't know that I'm not doing it for profiteering. So
if they
it
set
just
it up,
seems like it's an unnecessary roadblock.
well, but if they set it up that they make a percentage of the resale, then what do they care? It's kind of like.
And again, as a fan, more fees. It just seems like they're adding more fees and more fees and more fees and more fees. The thing that, the convenience charges that they're charging us for using a digital ticket now doesn't really seem so convenient to the concert goer.
Yeah, you're right. I think sports stadiums have figured it out much better with, StubHub than the music industry has so far. Because the liquidity, or I should say the ease and convenience, I can go on to StubHub and buy a ticket 2 hours before a baseball game, and I know the ticket's real, and there's QR code scanning and stuff, and you can resell your tickets just as quickly on StubHub. Again, why not transfer that into music, and why not let the owner, the original owner, make a profit of that? Then what would they care? Hey, I sold it for $1,000, but you got 10%. Why not? So I know people who do that full time. scalping tickets, and the venue owners don't get a piece at all.
On the light side of the force, the opportunity then to add sort of positive add-ons, though, to the blockchain could be more interesting in the way of maybe a high quality digital print of a good photograph from the show, maybe a clip of a song from that performance as a keepsake, maybe a special piece of merch that's available sometime later featuring one of those things on it. There are elements that if you have that chain in existence that are re-accessible for the future, if something like that was built in and you paid a premium for that after show access beyond what the normal plastic or paper ticket would have allowed you currently, then there's an option there for growth for the artist.
Well, really, all I'm really looking for is to just ticket stubs. I miss my ticket stubs with all these, non-paper, non-fungible tickets. I miss my ticket stubs.
Me too, man. Me too.
I think Greg had a really good point there, actually, on the idea of the royalty coming in on the ticket, because there's this golden zone if you're actually selling NFTs and hoping that other people will sell them on and you can make on a royalty, that if you do it about 10%, then as long as the value goes up by 10%, then the person who's selling it can make money on top of that. But actually, if the ticket people went in and said, okay, if you sell this again, 30% of it or 40% of it is going back to the original people, it's going to dissuade people selling those tickets on to other people afterwards, because they will only make 60% of the original sale price if they sell it at the same price. So there are actually mechanisms that you can put in that actually dissuade secondary market.
Or, Andy, on the flip side of that coin, that really could drive the resale value of a resold NFT sky high, because the reseller could be saying, well, if I'm only going to make 60% of what I sell this for, and it's at a scarcity, I'm just going to go ahead and jack this price through the roof, and I'll still make my money at 60%. And then, of course, the original NFT creator and minter will make their, nice fat 40%. And the person losing out here, just like with a scalper, is the consumer, who the person who's buying it secondhand. And so that discouragement to purchase and resell could come in from the end user saying, oh my gosh, it's not like a scalped ticket. It's not marked up $50 or $100. It's marked up $300 or $500 higher than I could have bought it originally. I think it's an interesting thing to kind of ponder these numbers.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, that's a really, really good point.
Yeah, I think one of the points is that they might be able to put a cap on the resale, because if it's on the blockchain, it's like they could set it that you can't resell it individually, or like you can assign somebody to a wallet or something like that. And that's about going back to buying 4 tickets and sharing it with people, is that, if it goes back in as a resale, it has to, and for remuneration and stuff like that, and all the way back down the line, which is great with the NFTs, but it would have to go through their own marketplace. So of course, we know Live Nation, Ticketmaster, and all that. They're going to want a nice big cut of that, and it's great. Send it into the secondary, their own secondary marketplace. But could it be that even it comes down to the promoter artist says like, hey, we're going to put a cap on this, so you can only resell it, and it becomes part of the digital contract, that it cannot be resold for more than 40% over cost? Is that possible with the blockchain?
I think it all comes down to what I was saying earlier about the smart contract that sits on top. It's all of these things are only as good as the smart contract. And there was some very, very early, there was a very, very early problem with the Ethereum blockchain, where a whole load of money was taken from the system through somebody just writing a bad contract. So I think a lot of this comes down to making sure that people are actually using lawyers to write contracts, not writing contracts that they think are watertight.
Yeah, and it goes back to it goes back to what we were talking about, I think yesterday, is like, with AI and the algorithms, with claiming that the like Spotify and streaming algorithms, search engines and stuff like that for playlists are sexist. But it goes back to who programmed it in. It's the old saying of GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. So it comes down to what is programmed.
Absolutely.
All right, we can come back to this. I do have just two other quick ones. I do have one that's just a nice. This was a little kind of a not necessarily this day in history, but this is a fun article to the extent, and also because I was not part of the original, but this is from 1995, and this is in Polestars. How 1995's Macintosh New York Music Fest live streamed 25 years ahead of its time. And so this is, it starts as a great picture of a young Michael Dorf. So you have Michael Dorf and Annual Rajez at the Knitting Factory's booth in 1995 Meetum Conference in Cannes, promoting the Macintosh New York Music Fest at a time before live streaming existed. So this is a great article. It's in Polestar. It's in our show notes. I won't get in it, but it's kind of like, it's like in 1995, long before iPhones, Wi-Fi, social media, or Zoom consumed our daily lives, there was just a couple of forward-thinking New York City club owners and promoters looking to replace revenue created by the collapse of the New Music Seminar the year before. Their ingenious idea, a hybrid music festival, both in person and, quote, webcasted, the live streaming of its day at clubs across the city. A brilliant idea, to be sure, but so much inspiration, timing is everything. And if this year's live streaming bonanza is any indication, the Macintosh Festival New York Music Fest was just a quarter century ahead of its time. So, it goes back, the quote is from the New York Times. It's like, this year, some Manhattan clubs have banded together to create a new music gala, the Macintosh New York Music Festival. And just before the event's launch, it said it could be the first time that a rock festival is taking place simultaneously in clubs and on computer screens with its own site on the internet's World Wide Web. I mean, let's think about this. We were saying things like the internet. I see Eli's just laughing there. She's cracking up in the back there.
I'm losing it. On their very own site, on the internet's World Wide Web. It takes me back to a time in history, that sentence.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
I fully remember this festival.
I totally remember this festival. I had a band play it. I don't remember it being particularly good.
Yeah.
Although I know Jeff Buckley was on the bill, which was the number one reason that I was trying to con my best friend into letting me use her family computer to watch it, because, obviously.
And did you have to tell everybody to get off the phone so you could dial in with that modem?
From the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, so the article goes on. It's like, just like what we're talking about. It says, they do a pull quote with its own site on the internet's World Wide Web. Let that sink in. So even for the language about the planet had yet to establish, few in the early to mid 90s, few knew in the early mid to 90s the difference between a site, the internet, and or web. Sure, there was a dial-up internet, but you had AOL, CompuServe, Prodigy, and there was no Google back then. Just Ask Jeeves, bulletin board system. So I mean, this article really goes in. It's a great article to read, but it talks about it talks about Michael Dorf and and then Knitting Factory. And I mean, they were ahead of their time with doing the live streaming. And we talked about that in the news during this week. And so, right here, it says all began in 1995 with Michael Dorf, who had owned and operated the New York City's awesomely underground and eclectic Knitting Factory since February 1987. He had just relocated from small digs on Houston Street to a tri-level emporium in Tribeca. The room, your 10,500 square foot space, included a main stage with 300 cap with smaller performance areas. So, it goes on. It's just really some fun to watch. And there's some great pictures of like the old Knitting Factory. I mean, if for the people that were during New York this time, or you want to see some history that was being made. And he said, like, when asked about the first webcasted concert, Dorf doesn't recall. He said, quote, "We just turned on the machine and it was just always on. So it ended up being nightly. I remember getting chewed out by John Zorn because he was doing rehearsals and somebody caught a piece of it in that primitive way. And so Bill Frisell was a special guest. Zorn was so upset. It was a privacy issue, and he was totally right. I learned a lot from that." So, he was talking about, talking to, Pete Shapiro when he was Wetlands, Irving Plaza, like all this stuff. I mean, it's a great historic piece that is in the show notes. So I just wanted to throw that out for some fun. But we have one more, and it's a Spotify article.
Of course it's a Spotify article. Is it okay if I do a reset before then?
You can certainly do a reset.
Okay, we've got some new folks listening in. I'm feeling like super. I'm feeling a lot of levity from that last article. I love it. So forgive me. I'm feeling a little bubbly here. Welcome to the room. Thanks for listening in. If you're tuning in on Clubhouse or if you're tuning into our stream, this is the Music News Power Hour. We meet here every weekday, Monday through Friday, from 12 to 1 Eastern, where we discuss some music news articles that we have found in the headlines on the World Wide Web, on the Internet's World Wide Web, and we open these up for discussion during the back half of the show. The first half of our show is reading through some headlines and taking a few comments about each headline. And after this next article, we're going to go ahead and open up the room to our roundtable discussion. So please feel free to chime in about anything we've discussed, not just today during our cast, but also all week, because this is the Friday Week in Review. If you're not on stage in the Clubhouse room, but you have something you'd like to contribute, please go ahead and put your hand up. We'll be happy to bring you up. Hands up in this room means something a little different than it does in the nightclub. So feel free to raise your hand, come to the stage, and join us. We're going to cover one more headline here before we move into the open discussion roundtable, and there's a lot to discuss today. Peter?
I know I'm going to get through this one really quick because it's some variety, but because it was also brought up in another discussion, and we were talking about, somebody was talking about. I think it was Jamie. Jamie was talking about it earlier today. It was about podcasts, like Roadrunner has a podcast. So Spotify, Warner Group, Music Group strike podcast deal, tapping Warner's artists and songwriter catalogs. So Warner Music Group and Spotify had entered into a new partnership that will see the two companies develop a series of original podcasts built around WMG's extensive and diverse artists and songwriters catalogs. Quote, the most impactful podcasts share with music the key component of storytelling and personal experience. In partnership with Warner Music Group, we look to develop stories leveraging their unique artists and catalog, said Courtney Holt, VP Global Studios and Business. Spotify, and continues, we look forward to helping them leverage the power of podcasting to forge a deeper connection with fans. So also to continue from the Warner side, we're excited to take the step forward with Spotify as we strengthen and deepen our existing partnership. Podcasts provide an opportunity to unlock value for artists and songwriters by delivering fresh and unique stories to music fans across the globe, said Juan Alexandra, EVP Business Development and Chief Digital Officer at Warner Music Group. Continues, we look forward to working with Spotify to experiment and drive growth in podcasting. So, Warner produces various podcasts from across its network, including Duran Duran's Whoosh, which curated and hosted by Simon Le Bon, the Prince official podcast in collaboration with his estate, Robert Plant's Digging Deep, the good old Grateful Dead cast, and more. So they have a lot there. So this is really interesting, again, to see how Spotify is doubling down more on podcasting, and there's a lot to it's a lot to discuss. So let's open it up, and any thoughts on that, or we can just go around the room and see what anybody thinks. Eli, was there anything that stuck out for you?
I'm just still, like I said, I'm just feeling some incredible levity from thinking about Apple broadcasting from their very own website on the internet's World Wide Web 25 years ago. I have a stupid grin all over from that article. I love that.
It was Macintosh.
Where do you find the World Wide Web?
On the internets.
It's on the internet.
It's on computers now.
It's a series of tubes.
I was going to say that.
I built the internet.
Somewhere there's a gerbil and a wheel turning, and I think that's how it's powered.
Didn't
I was told the internet was in the computer.
It's the information superhighway, right?
I thought that was the Autobahn. Didn't Al Gore create the internet?
All I know is Al Gore made it. Oh, come on,
yeah.
Peter. Damn
it. All right, I need to get the... There we go.
Although the person who created the World Wide Web is...
Oh, Angela, you cut out. Well, I missed that, Angela. What was it?
The person who created the World Wide Web is British. I'm getting you in.
I did not know that.
And apparently, in other random news is Denmark. Apparently, I think it's Denmark who created the Social Security number. So with that being said, we have about 15 minutes left in the room. Who wants to go? Who wants to bring something to the table? Anything that we've talked about? Anything that happened in the week? Anything new? Anything that we just discussed? Let's let it ride.
Is the Spotify podcast article implying that those podcasts would be exclusive to the Spotify network? Because the allure of most podcasts is their wide availability, through multiple different listening platforms, apps, et cetera, et cetera.
Let's see. I'm going to scroll through this here. I don't see it say. I don't see exclusive. Let me see.
So they're more
Nope.
backing them with funding and such.
I don't see. Yeah, I mean, this it doesn't go into too many details. It's just kind of more
If we
like
look,
reads like that press release in that sense.
if we look historically at the video space, I think we'll see that replicated in the podcast space, though, with the major players trying to get behind either acquire or develop as much original programming as they can and create walled gardens.
The Brit who created the World Wide Web is Sir Timothy Berners-Lee.
I love it. Thank you, Sir Timothy Berners-Lee, for allowing Al Gore to pretend to invent the worldwide internet web.
The interwebs, yes.
Oh, sorry, the worldwide interwebs.
Yes.
I can never remember. It's all so new. I want to take a quick second and welcome Frank, Kevin, Melody, Ite, and JoCat to the stage. Welcome, you guys. Did anybody have a comment for us? It's good to see you. I know I pinged some of you up. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. It's just good to see you. Welcome to the stage.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Angela would be my sister. I'm still stateside, but yeah, she usually lures me into these rooms. But I heard about Fyre Festival discussion earlier, and I'm in the influencer space now. But at the time, CEG was doing live booking, and we found our way into this space now. So it's we didn't have anybody involved with that, but the word influencer, it will always be marred and tied to that event. So we just lick our wounds and keep moving.
I was going to say, I really feel like Spotify has the potential to become a YouTube if they could somehow just integrate a locker room, like kind of like Clubhouse as well, and just added video. I don't know. It kind of has the potential to become like the next biggest social media if they could just find a way to, if it was just Spotify and YouTube combined, it would take over.
I like this.
The last paragraph of that article does mention an element of exclusivity. It says Spotify is now home to more than 2 million podcasts, including the Michelle Obama podcast. It lists several others. And it says it is also the exclusive home of a wide range of music and talk shows, the personalized music and podcast mix Daily Drive, and innovative programming like The Get Up, which combines music curated for each individual listener. Blah blah blah. So it may be exclusive just to Spotify, the content there.
Well, I mean, they were clarifying that it's not. It doesn't say anything about the deal with Warner being exclusive. It just says that Spotify has exclusive content. So it could be a lot. Maybe maybe kind of hinting at it, but it's we'll have to see.
Ite, I think you were going to say something. Did we cut you off? I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I certainly can't actively comment on this, but I will say that exclusivity, it's usually comes with a reason, right? Like when people put exclusive content on Tidal, Apple, or Spotify, it's because the platform wants to lure people in, which also means the platform will promote that, right? So that's not to say that it's not, but exclusivity. The reason there's exclusive content because it also means the platform that owns exclusivity will probably promote it more, right? So that's why they do that. But think about it as storytelling, right? Today, let's say you discover an artist, you can listen to all their music on Spotify. Spotify integrated tour dates, they integrated merch. But what about the story of the artist? You'd have to go back. You got the little profile, but then you have to go to their Instagram, to their website. By adding podcasts, right, you could put that in the searchability of an artist, and now you could go deeper on an artist story within Spotify. So that's a big deal, and it's a big deal for connecting, for artists. It's good for people, keeping people on Spotify's platform, in my opinion, and it's a very good for the artists themselves that are able to tell the story in another.
Yeah.
right? So, and like if you're going to
we
put,
said previously, we did say previously that Spotify is almost like social media, right? And on social media, content is absolutely king. And so it's interesting to think about what would happen if the content that was available wasn't all necessarily curated by the artist themselves, but was content about them. So I think this whole conversation is really fascinating, and the possibilities are endless, truly, especially as we consider whether the streaming audience at home wants to stream audio only or audio and video. If Spotify could open up the world and let the viewers at home and listeners at home choose whether they wanted audio or audio with video, Spotify might become our new favorite social media app
yeah,
ever, like
I,
ever.
yeah,
But
I mean, I don't know,
but
there.
I do want to take just a quick second. I'm sorry, ET. I do want
Sure.
to let everybody know that we're moving into the last 10 minutes. We have about 8 minutes left here in the Music News Power Hour. We do try to keep it to about an hour because we know you have stuff to do in the music industry. We want to thank you for joining us today and every weekday this week. We know a lot of you have been here with us. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for listening in. We are streaming live audio and video on multiple platforms, so you can visit musicindustrycity.com for more information about where you can tune in both on and off of Clubhouse. Please join us again on Monday. We're going to have some fresh headlines. I'm sure that some crazy stuff's going to happen over the weekend. So we're going to have some fresh headlines on Monday too. But I did want to start wrapping up the room and ask if anybody on the stage here has any kind of final comments and final thoughts, not just about our headlines today, but all our headlines this week, because this is the Friday week in review. Did we have anybody with some final thoughts on not just today's headlines, but anything we covered this week? There's been a lot. Ite, did you want to finish your thought? Because I interrupted you. I interrupted you again.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that you know, Spotify tried. Sorry, it's been tried before to integrate video into. So there's two things to consider. So if it becomes a social kind of like how is that going to play if it becomes more and more of a social network? But outside of that, I think, and I actually have no idea about their plans, right? But with video, I feel like they're going to tread carefully. It's been tried in some other streaming platforms, and it hasn't been like a huge success there, right? So it's like, okay, they're starting with, they have the music, the podcast, they're putting in more and more external feeds into Spotify. Now you had touring feeds, you have live streaming feeds, but but those still link out, right? Maybe they're going to start pulling more and more. They'll tread carefully with video to see if people will adopt it, because it's been tried in other places and it haven't. But certainly now with their plans to launch, the Clubhouse alternative and all that, like, yeah, they're moving in that direction of more direct interaction between the listeners, right? It's no longer just a feed on the side of who's listening to what. You'll be actually on the fly, and it also coincides with a lot of other concepts like listening parties and things that artists have done now recently in the pandemic, which is like, yes, live streaming was one thing, but the other thing was fans listening release or something like that and chatting, right? So they can bring that experience into Spotify, right? So
yeah, I've been saying this probably for years, is that Spotify is not a music streaming platform. Spotify is an entertainment platform, and that's where they're going. Yeah. I mean, they've tested out video. It's there. They tested out direct distribution. Is Andy still here? Andy? Oh, Andy's not here. Okay, because Andy would probably have a better understanding. But like coming from a developer standpoint, when you're building out something and you want to test it, you do a sample. You put it out there. It's like, hey, let's see if this works. Let's get some of our user base to test it out and see what we can learn from this. That might not be the end goal. The end goal is something bigger. It's like, okay, but we need, so was having direct distribution to Spotify a test for something else, for something in the future? Was this video that they have that you don't hear anything about Spotify videos, was that something when they announced it? Was that just another test of like, all right, we want to test the waters there, but we're still focused primarily, first and foremost, as a music streaming platform. Then it started getting into podcasts, and they acquire some companies to help them.
No, I mean 100%, and they do it all the time, and it's very smart to do it, right? They do it even when you don't know they do it, because there's ways to do it where some consumers see and some don't, and they've also done acquisitions that then worked out or not, but that's okay, because that's how you make progress, right? Like if you don't, that's how you get innovation done, by trying things and investing in innovation. Otherwise, you'll never get ahead. So I think and that's how you find what's next. I think they're actively doing it, and they're going to continue doing it as they figure out what's next and how to evolve.
Yeah,
and they're really good at analyzing the data that comes out of those tests too, right? So which is a really important piece of this.
Well, and they have a lot of connectivity to Facebook, so they get a lot of data. They know a lot.
I just wonder how long it'll take for features to become available to independent artists, since everything seems to obviously get tested on the majors first.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. They have Trophy Direct. Like you got a bunch of, you got a few Spotify preferred distribution platforms. I mean, it's not that. Let's put it this way: what's tested and rolled out, if it's rolled out to everybody, it's rolled out to everybody. The testing, it's not that they're trying to put it to this community or another. It's just that they need to figure out what's the best framework to test something, because sometimes it's better tested with the independent artists on the platform, and some things are better tested with labels. It really depends what they're testing, But if a feature makes it through that hurdle, more often than not, it'll be available to everybody. But they just don't want to prematurely, I think, release stuff that they don't know will work on scale. Does that make sense? But again, this is all my opinion. I actually have no idea, but this is based on experience.
I think it's something that would definitely be worth researching, because all of this is right now, let's face it, this information is as exciting as the three letters NFT were 120 days ago to everyone. So these are great. It's a great kind of ponderances to look at as we take a look at those headlines. And I wanted to let you know too, Ite, if you find out any more information about this topic, or find a headline for us that you want to share, you can share that with us here, and we'll be happy to cover it here in the Music News Power Hour. We're here from 12 to 1 Eastern every Monday through Friday. We cover some news articles in the top of the show, and then in the back half of the show, we invite everybody to join in our discussion. So please join us every Monday through Friday. Put your hand up, and please join us in our discussion of some music news headlines. Yeah, Peter's doing the dance over there. I love it. You can also catch us live streaming on multiple platforms, and visit musicindustrycity.com to subscribe and for more information on our links.
I love it. All right, we are down to just the final 30 seconds. Anybody have one sentence to say before we close it out? Anybody just got one thing? Adam, go for it. Take it.
Spotify car thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Spotify car thing. On that note.
Who named that? That's amazing. It's just amazing. Like, what?
Marketing and advertisers everywhere are just cringing. Marketers and advertisers everywhere are just cringing. Car thing? Really? My 2-year-old could have done that.
I'm sure maybe like it sounded great in Scandinavia, like at headquarters in Sweden or something.
Yeah, like, maybe in Swedish. It's in Swedish. It sounds great. Yeah.
You know what it sounds like to me as a working title that nobody came up with a better idea for, and it just had to keep moving forward with the working title. That's what it sounds like to me. They should have called it working title.
Yeah, they were at the bar and like, hey, aren't you working on that car thing over there in that division? What's that thing? I'm working on this car thing, and it just stuck.
Yeah.
In other genius branding, though, in honor of Akon's birthday, don't forget his cryptocurrency is called A-Coin, which to me
genius.
That's amazing.
All right, hey everybody, put your A-Coins in your piggy banks, in your jar coin banks. Put your A-Coins in there for Akon's birthday, and happy birthday today to Akon.
We already have B-Coin, right? So
something else interesting, I think we probably have to drop, but the fact that, and I don't know if you discussed that Veeps equipped like 60 Live Nation venues with equipment for live streaming, right?
We actually covered that in the headlines. Yeah, we did cover
yesterday
that.
we talked a lot about that. Yeah,
Be
that
sure
was
to
a
visit
great one.
musicindustrycity.com and you can look at our show notes and look at that link with that article in there. And we have our wrap up there. But we are going to go ahead and wrap this room. We are just over the hour. We try to keep it at 1 hour because we have stuff to do. And so do you. Thank you for joining us, listening in, and being part of our discussion today. For my co host, Peter Schwink, my name is Eli Window, and we will see you Monday at 12 Eastern in the Music News Power Hour. Peter, take it away.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And it's great to see you. Be good. See you on Monday.
Have a good weekend, guys.
Ciao. Have a good weekend.
Weekend.